A very good morning to all of you. My name is Wojciechowska. You can see it here, and I'm sure my surname is as difficult for you as your names and surnames are difficult for me. But just to get to know each other, I will pass on the microphone and ask each one of you to say your name, okay? Or you can say your surname as well, but I might have difficulties memorizing. So.
Mine is very easy. I'm Anna.
You're Anna? Yes. Okay, welcome on.
I'm Ruben. Ruben? Yes.
Ruben.
Yes.
Okay.
Ina.
I am Varsine.
Once again?
Varsine.
Varsine. Okay. Tastes like Warsaw.
Ours is very simple. We are both Annas.
Yes. So we have 3 Annas now.
Something similar, Liana.
Ася. Lilith.
Oh, Lilith. That's a beautiful name.
My name is Nane.
Nani? Nane. Nane. Yes. Okay.
Tatev. Tatev.
Lucy.
Me too, Lucy.
I have a beautiful name. Lilith.
I'm Naira. Maria.
Anahit, but short you can call me Anna.
Okay.
I'm used to that.
The fourth Anna.
I'm Gayane. Gayane.
Guyana.
Yes.
These 4 as well.
Emma. Nice to meet you all.
Okay. Close the door, please.
I'm Leah.
Alina.
Victoria.
Tigran.
Hey everyone, I'm Margarita.
Lucy.
Hi, I'm Rosanna.
Rosanna. All right. So there are so many beautiful names here, so many beautiful ladies and gentlemen. That could be a bit unusual in HR, but we welcome you very much here. Okay, we gathered for the masterclass called Resistance to Change. I will try within this 60 minutes to make you feel uncomfortable in a way, because change is not always comfortable. So I will ask you to change places and do some other stuff. But hello?
Hello.
Hi. You made your entrance. Have a seat. And what's your name?
I haven't selected yet my name. No, my name is Artak, sorry.
Okay.
Just decided.
Just decided. Yeah, that was very fast. Okay, so some more gentlemen coming. Would you like to take a seat? I'm making this entrance a little bit longer because I really need all of you to start the exercise, which we're going to do in a minute, all together. Okay, so a few words about me. I come from Warsaw, Poland. I am a psychologist myself, but I'm also a consultant. I'm a coach. I do coaching for executives, and I'm a business trainer. It's been 12 years that I've worked on such positions, but I have to tell you that the most I enjoy training and coaching. Training because I can get to know people, I can feel the energy, and I do hope you find this class useful. Okay, since we're all here, what I would like you to do now is to switch off your phones, if it's possible, okay? And the task is, I will ask you to write your name, your surname, with the capital letters on these little papers, and just under your name, with the capital letters, write your bank signature. You see, if anything goes bad, I can collect it. No, just joking. Okay, don't start yet. Don't start yet, because we all need to start at the same time. So once again, to remind you, your name and your surname with capital letters onto little papers, and just underneath, do it, the bank signature, okay? You can start when I say start, not yet, because I need to count the time. So let me use, well, it's up to you. You can write it in Armenian as long as there are capital letters. I cannot recognize it, whether they are or not. Okay, so this is very important, what we do. Okay, I have to put the mic down. When you write your name and your signature, you have to stand up and put your hands like this. Okay? When the last person finishes, I will stop counting time. Right? Sorry? Bank signature? Just the signature. No, the signature, this signature that you use. Okay? So your name, your surname, bank signature, standing up and putting your hand like that. Okay? I say start. You haven't done the exercise? Okay, stop. Thank you very much. You can sit down now. The time is 21 seconds. Which is pretty good. What happens now, you do the same exercise, but with two changes. One change is you switch to the other hand. You switch your pen to the other hand, the one that you don't write with, okay? And the second thing is what you do. When you finish, your name, your surname, signature, you stand up and you put your arms the other way around. So not the way you usually do, but you put it the other way around. Okay? So you can start now. Okay, stop. Well, 38 seconds, 733. He's not taking part in the exercise. Okay, you can sit down. Guys, my question is, what has changed? Sorry?
The usual way we are used to do things.
Right.
How comfort zone, like writing from with right hand and changing it to left hand.
Sure. The habit? Yes, exactly. How did changing your hand influenced the exercise? Okay. First of all, the time got lengthened. The second thing was the quality. Is it better or worse? It's worse, okay. And the mood? And the mood, okay. Right, anything else? Oh, the beauty of letters. Now, could you show your work? Okay. You better not show. Okay. Would you get the money from the bank if you gave such signature? No. No. Okay, this is what happens when we change things. When we start learning new tasks, we are not straight on perfect. We take more time to do new things. The quality goes down. There is one more important thing. there is this question of why the hell do we have to do it? I know how to do it. I've been using my right hand all my life. And for what sake does anyone want me to change my hand? Okay, but if you do, what can happen? You mentioned the comfort zone, okay? What happens if you step out of your comfort zone? It's learning, it's mobilization, new approach. Panic, yeah. Sorry? In questions. Why do we need to do it? Exactly. So when you leave your comfort zone, you feel uncomfortable. You may not like it. Some things change, but this is the only way to develop, to learn, right? Now, if you practice enough with your left hand, what can happen is that in case, which I do not wish any of you, something happens to your right hand, you could be using your left hand, right? So it is all about learning. And I hope this short exercise can show you the beginning of the resistance, right? Well, it was easy and I guess you had fun with it, but what happens if you have to change really, really big things, right? And I would like you to have a look at the flip chart. I said, I'm trying to not keep you comfortable, that's why I'm not using the presentation. What I was trying to draw here is the levels that humans can go through change. It was discovered by Bateson and Robert Dilts. Do you know them? Yeah? In person, fantastic. I met Robert Dilts as well. Yes, he's great. And this comes from NLP. Do you all know what NLP is? Right. And you probably know his findings. Well, on the very base level, we have environment, then we have behavior, skills, beliefs and values, and identity, which here I would call the role. How many of you is familiar with this picture? Just few of you. Okay, so what happens, I would like to go through each and every stage and that we can discover where the resistance comes from, okay? And what the examples are. It is very important to realize in which level you have the resistance, because then there are some different actions to be taken. You take different actions at this level and very different at that level, right? But before we start going through this in details, I'd like to ask you about one or two examples of a really big change. It can be connected with your work that you had to go through. All right, so the language. Did you have to learn Armenian, or is it the language of your origin? Thank you. Anyone else? Yes?
A lot of work remotely and mostly virtually, because before I used to work like locally in one place, meeting people, talking to them in person, but now a lot of remote work and video conferencing, and yeah, at the beginning it's not really comfortable.
Acquisition. My company was acquired by another one, so totally different corporate culture, environment, approaches. No, the main thing is corporate culture.
When you merged, when you joined, did you keep the same levels of seniority?
No, no. It was downgraded a little bit.
Anyone else would like to share?
I was working in an IT company for a few years. Then I got an offer from a mining company. And I traveled outside Yerevan to the mining company. And the first thing was, of course, the environment. The IT people, well-educated, master's degree, doctors, PhD, and then the miners, absolutely different people you have to deal with. That was hard.
The level of responsibility.
Oh, the level of responsibility that changed. Okay, thank you very much. Well, from the business point of view, would you say that these changes were necessary? But from the business side?
So it is very important. In our company, we have a culture of constant rotations. Like people who are doing some job, they are obliged to change their team, and this is the base for promotion. And we all are accustomed to this, but we still are very defensive to changes. But when you accept that this is necessary, after some time you agree that that was correct decision. So it is very important to transfer the values for this change and make people agree with you.
Some time. But the first reaction is usually, why? Do we really have to do it? Is it going to be hard? How long is it going to take? Right? Are there any other questions that come to your mind when you're going through change like this? It's not going to be good. Most people would say, like 90%, according to the researchers, 90% of people do not like change. Okay. Now, let's look at these examples using the chart. If something happens in the environment, what do we understand by environment? You can shout it out. Surrounding, the place you work. The conditions, your post, right? Sometimes the responsibility, but mainly environment. And this can generate a big resistance. Why? Location, such a simple thing, or environment. It's a matter of habit, but it generates resistance mainly because exactly. Sorry? There can be lots of reasons, but the psychological reason is that when you change anything in the environment, you kind of lose the sense of security, right? You get used to things. You know where you are. You come to the office, you know where your desk is. You know who you face with, right? And if anything changes there, you go like, no, I don't want to do it. From my experience, I remember one of big companies decided to change offices. And they changed offices from really nice ones, little rooms that people work 2 or 3 maximum, into a massive open space. Do you know what happened? People hated it in the beginning. They had different reasons not to go for it, right? But that was the change in the environment that generated a lot of resistance because of the sense of security. In a minute, I will tell you how to deal with the resistance at each and every stage. Right, so remote work, yes, that was somebody's example, was connected with the environment. Let's go up, behavior. Yes, you can be upgraded, you can be downgraded. Imagine the situation that Chris was telling you about yesterday, that people who were cashiers had to become salespeople, right? So they had to change their behavior, their way of working, right? Does it generate any change? Any resistance, I'm sorry? Why do I have to do things differently? I'm okay with where I am. I know how to do things. And all of a sudden you telling me I have to be a salesperson? No, right? And what happens here is that at the new post, with the new responsibilities, you are not always efficient, right? Because you're learning, okay? So if we go up, we have the skills, changing in skills. What happens here? I think a great example is the case of language, right? Do you have any other examples of changing skills, learning new things? Okay. Yes, that's a very good example. When you get married, you have to change your skills. So, like not leaving your clothes everywhere, for example. Yes, it is. It's a great example. Again, from my experience, we were working for one of the supermarket chains. And people on the shop floor were used to do their tasks each and every day pretty much the same. But what happens is that they introduced some mini laptops, let me say, that they had to put it, like to calculate and to ask for the stock, etc., etc. And these people, you know, some of them did not even have computers. So it was shocking for them. And the resistance, from in the scale from 1 to 10, what do you think it was? It was 100. Exactly. So changing skills, again, coming back to the exercise, changing your skills interferes with the productivity, effectiveness, the way people work, right? It's a very strong phase of resistance here. Let's go up, because this, as you can probably think, can be easily adopted or changed. But what happens if we come to values and beliefs? Okay, the upper we go, the harder it gets. Yes, true. Sorry? When you feel your... Yes. And then you begin to believe. Yes, but if somebody says you have to change your beliefs, you have to change your values, well, the question is it possible to change your values? I would say not very much, right? It is taking much more time. Exactly. Yes, it's possible. Yes, very much so. So I would like to stop here for a second, because as we said, the upper we go, the harder it gets. Yes, but beliefs seem to be crucial for change resistance. Right, and there are according to Bateson and Diels, two kinds of beliefs. One can be supportive, the other one can be unsupportive for a change. Okay? And now I have written down some beliefs. And my question is, do you think they are supportive or unsupportive? First one, the harder you work, the more money you make. Supportive. In what sense? Sorry? So I can see that you can support this belief that the harder you work, the more money you make. Think about people who are addicted to work, like workaholics. It's one of a very, very dangerous addiction. It's addiction to work. And I'm not only talking about Japan. I'm talking about European countries. I'm talking about the States. Okay? So the situation, if somebody thinks, if his belief is the harder you work, the more money you make, he would exercise it more and more. So it depends on the situation, whether this is supportive or unsupportive. When I work with executives, with this executive coaching, this belief comes up very often, right? And what they do is, because they believe that, they encourage their employees to do the same. Okay, I can see you nodding your head. That means, oh, you have the managers like that.
So what we discussed so far was about changes, and these beliefs and this pyramid does not mention motivation. So money might be one of the motivations. Another, having a steady job is also a motivation. So what about defining the motivations that can make person to change or not change?
If I may come back to this question, okay? Because the motivational aspect will come a little bit later. What I'm trying to show you, that when you get stuck, when you get resistance at the level of values and beliefs, you have to see whether the belief the person has is supportive for change or unsupportive for change, right? The situation, for example, it's better to have a steady job. This is what my grandmother used to tell me. You don't go entrepreneur. You don't set up your own company. It's better to have a steady job because then you'll be secure, right? So this belief does not make me change. This belief rather says, stay where you are, and if anyone offers you some opportunity of establishing your own company, don't do it, right? So the resistance is here. And just one more example, which I like a lot, and it comes with cultural differences. Because here we have stereotypes, we have proverbs, we have sayings, right? Everything is what you think is a statement that guides you in a way. In Poland, people say, be modest, don't ask for more. Okay, right. This, don't ask for more money, for example. And what happens? People get resistance when they have to ask for the pay rise, right? Another thing is that in Poland, people don't like showing off with the money they make, and they rather say, oh, I don't earn enough. You know, if you ask a Pole, how are you? He or she would say, like, start saying how bad the life is and not looking at the bright side, but totally opposite. Whereas in the States, if you say, yes, I do earn a lot of money. I like it. I feel blessed. In the States, people believe that if you make money, God loves you. Right? So this is just totally opposite notion. Yes, God loves you if you can make money, because when you make money, you can help other people, right? Or you can create the place of work, etc., etc. Right? So this stereotype, well, or the saying in Polish, it's in contradiction. And when I worked with the American companies, they could not believe why in Poland people think so, right? So, and answering your question a little bit, how to work with the situation when people's belief, not only one person, but people's belief, say like, we're not gonna change, is sometimes you can ask for the contradictory example, or you can try to reframe it. Like in the situation, the harder you work, the more money you make. You can ask the person, have you ever worked less and made your money? Okay, so this is just asking for the other example. We go up and we come up with identity, which I would translate as the role. So again, coming back to your example with the cultural difference, when two companies merged and people lost their positions, right? This really touches the identity, it touches the role, right? The resistance here is very strong. And not only that I feel bad, that I used to be the PM, for example, and now I have to be a senior consultant or something like that. But this defines your role, this defines who you are for yourself, and also for the surrounding that you live in. Again, the company from the energy sector, great restructuring. There were 5,000 people, around 5,000, and they downgraded up to 1,200, I think. And it was not only connected with reducing the number of people, but also with changes in the hierarchy. And the directors in Poland, mind you, if you have a director on your business card, you're somebody. For some reasons, I don't know why is that, but it happens. So people who were directors, they had their company cars, laptops. Everybody in the neighborhood knew he was the director of something. Okay, after restructuring, what happens is that he becomes an expert. Okay, so it's not only what I think of myself, but also what my husband thinks of me, what my children think of me. Will my son ask me the question, Mom, you used to be a director and now you're an expert. Is it better or worse? But no, it went down. Because the restructuring also connected with reducing costs. Yes, no company car. The best possible car is the company car, okay? But you see, here the resistance is not only from myself, but it also comes from the surrounding. Right. Let us have a look how we may work on that. If the resistance comes from environment, like changing offices, right? What they said, what Bateson and Deal said, the best actions to be taken is to give instructions, is, in other words, to educate people, right? You can take your team and go to the new office, show them, get to know, and show them where they're gonna work, right? So step by step, getting people used to the new place. And he says instructions, tell them what's gonna happen. Behavior and skills, I guess this is HR domain, right? If you need a person to start acting differently. For example, not having sandwich at the place of work, especially if there are clients just behind, or the situation that you have to start speaking with the clients. That is a change. Again, working for Polish Airlines a few years ago. Stewardess case. Stewardess is there to help us, right? In a way, she is a kind of waitress. So it's a good idea that she comes to the passenger saying, well, what would you like? Do you need anything? No, but the stewardesses from the old generation, first of all, did not want to speak English because they're Polish. So why? And secondly, they did not want to approach the clients, the passengers. Say, why? I don't want to do it. It was a huge change for them, but the resistance was also really, really strong. So what can be the solution? Give them training, right? Give them as much training as you can afford, so that they can start learning new things. One more thing, usually the business or the managers or the top dogs say, training, the next day you come to the office, start acting differently, start being more effective, right? Do something in less time. But no, as Robert De Niro says, impossible, because whatever you start doing for the first time, it's gonna take longer. The effectiveness will go down, productivity will go down. Okay, we hear training. Beliefs and values. Here is the place for coaching. Why not for training? What is the difference between coaching and training? That's a very good question.
The approach is different. While training your employees, you're giving them skills like how to do certain things. When it comes to coaching, you're like their friend, you're encouraging them, motivating them. I think the most important part in coaching is that you are the motivating person.
I would say that in training you teach them what to do and how to do, while in coaching you bring them to the certain points so that they come to it themselves, to certain points that in certain beliefs. Yeah.
You don't tell them what to do and how to do, but you encourage people to look for the resources they have, within themselves, that they can start doing things differently, right? Besides, can you really tell a person, change your value? No, values are untouchable. This is something that we live for, right? This is like the strain. So you can only encourage the person, you can try to motivate the person, you can do something called reframing. Do you know what reframing is? It's like saying the same thing, but in different words. And it's like showing different perspective, right? That goes for values and beliefs. Beliefs are the guidelines, right? And changing them, it's not a piece of cake. Identity, director and expert. What to do? What happens to be effective here is mentoring, right? And again, the difference between coaching and mentoring. Mentoring, sometimes people say it's a bit like training, but what we understand by mentoring is giving your own example and how you solved the similar situation, right? So it's usually somebody who is more senior and somebody who has experienced something similar. So a mentor would say to this ex-director, if I were in a similar situation, here is what I was trying to do. Here is what it helped me, right? To start thinking of my new role as an advantage and not only disadvantage, right? So instructions, training, coaching, and mentoring. Okay, do you have any questions? at this point? Well, coaching and mentoring very often overlap, right? As a well, coaching is not as easy as some people think it is. I don't know how about in Armenia, but in Poland, this coaching profession is still not identified as one of the jobs, one of the listed jobs. And there are various people coming and saying, I'm your diet coach, I'm your weight coach, I'm your whatever coach, right? It's like without qualifications, people talk about. Yes. The higher level of encouraging, okay, the person to take the most or to give the most of themselves. Well said. He is co-responsible, because if the person does not want to put more effort, we had that situation with the Polish football team. I don't know if it's no, I'm just okay, right. How coaching helped changing values? Well, if you start coaching, you don't say, okay, can I answer your question? When you start with coaching, you don't know what the effect is going to be, right? So the coachee sets the goal, but you don't know what's going to happen at the end. Besides, values are hard to change or impossible to change, but you can work on the beliefs. I don't know if it answers your question, but I don't know anyone who changed the value, right? If, for example, family is the value for me, not a coaching, not a mentoring, nothing would change it. All right? And I'm with you on that.
Very often, like young guys who have their business, when they are in business, they hate yetama. When they get to this government, they start lobbying yetama. So they change something. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. It really happens, I think.
If possible, I would like to be opposite to you. And example is the following. You know these NGOs that are quite active here. And they are not coaching, but they are coming and saying you are wrong, you should change the way you live. And it is working very well. A lot of people are changing their minds. They are changing their beliefs, they are changing their approach and everything. So, wow. No. We have a lot of, in 5 years, whole society has changed. When I was serving in army, it was having some attitude to some people. And when I'm now talking to guys that are serving in the army, it is very different. And it is taking about a year to change every belief. Beliefs are standing on the values.
Exactly, but if you are, that's why you can change, part of the
and what is the basis? Mm. Integrity is advertising. It is a mean to show that you are a good person, but not always people who are talking about integrity, they are really acting like this. And family, we had a lot of values about family, about connection with grandparents, about etc., etc. But now we are seeing that society is changing. So, and it is done very quickly, very fast.
I hate stopping this discussion. What I would like to say is that both of you are right. And if you have different opinion, you're right too. You know, this is a very touchy and very delicate subject. If you think the values can be adopted, can be changed, or can be switched, or you think the values can be like, you can have widened, yes, that's right. If you say, no, not a value can be changed, then you're right as well, right? Here it's just, what Deal suggested is the idea of looking at the resistance to change at these different levels, trying to find the most effective way of helping people go through resistance, right? And if you get stuck with values, there is nothing you can do it, because if the family is your value, that is, right, for the moment and for the rest of your life. So you're all right here. We don't have to say like one is right or the other is not. But just before we finish, I would like to tell you one more thing which is connected with instructions, training, coaching, mentoring as well, is the ability of our brain to form new connections. This very bad picture, what I was trying to show are the two neurons, right? I think it's much better to look at the floor and at the carpet, because it resembles what how the neurons look like and how complicated they are. Any new task, any new thing, any new activity requires making a connection, finding a way between millions of neurons, right, for the new task. For example, if you start learning how to drive a car, right, you would have to repeat the thing. It will take you time, because this, as a matter of fact, it's very energy and protein consuming activity for our brain. So you may believe or not, but our brain hates changes, hates starting learning new things, because it requires energy, proteins, and doing something differently. But on the other hand, our brain has the ability called neuroplasticity, and it means that you can practically endlessly learn new things and new stuff, right? But learning new things, whether we're with training or start thinking about something differently, as I said, requires 7 and 21. What do you think it is? Between 7 and 21 days. These, yeah. Right. Between 7 and 21 days, this is the time your brain needs to form this connection, right? But it also needs, 7 is the minimum number of repetitions. No, you have to repeat doing the new thing, not only once, but minimum 7 times, okay, in order to make this connection. And last but not least, price. When you do new thing, right, even if it's the smallest activity, what happens if you don't think of it as a, okay, I've done it differently, right? I've taken the pen and wrote down something with my left hand. I went to work different way, etc. You have to praise it in your mind, because then it's the chemistry of our body. The adrenaline comes up, right? And the brain likes adrenaline. It's the hormone of happiness. One of the hormones of happiness. So 7 to 21 is the number of days. 7 is the minimum number of repetitions for the new thing. And you have to give a prize to your brain for doing something new. It's, in other words, encouraging and a bit cheating of our brain, which is not very often ready to work with us at the same pace and the same speed. That is a very difficult question, because I would say it comes individually. There are some people who are very active, who stay very active, and their desire to change is great. The latest discoveries in neuroscience say that if you get older, you can have the less motivation to do new things. But the more you exercise your brain, the healthier with your body you can even stay. But when you say exercising your brain, it's really stepping out of your comfort zone. It's really learning something new. So if I know English, learning German for me would not be an exercise, because it's still within the same family of languages. I would have to start learning Armenian, for example. This is the exercise. This is stepping out of the comfort zone. So to keep healthy both in your mind, in your head, and with your body, you need to exercise your brain. And neuroplasticity helps with that a lot. I think we're running out of time. No, we have 4 minutes. Just to summarize, what I was trying to show you is that the resistance to change can come at very different levels. What you can try to do to help yourself and maybe help others if you work with teams who are going through a big change by some activities, and you can be sure that as long as you work with mentally healthy people, we all have this neuroplasticity, right, that can help us develop new things. Now it's a question time. I thought I explained that motivation is with the beliefs, I would say, and the values. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're right.
And how do you coach people to find this motivation to change?
That is such a big question to answer that we don't have time to do it now. I'm sorry. No, because we would have to go through the certain stages, etc. So,
to you, what motivated you to become entrepreneur while working in a very good, nice company?
So I worked for about 10 years as CFO, then I was CEO in several startups. Then I just get rid of this environment. I like these people, they are friends, but I was tired of acting like they like, and I decided to change the environment. And when I was working in that organization, I was making more money with less efforts.
So you wanted to have freedom, yeah? Freedom made you change.
Freedom, and to think that you are free to make some decision, but actually when you become entrepreneur, you are more limited with different factors from money to market and etc.
Okay, I don't see any hands in the air. Then one last thing I'd like you to do is to take the microphone and each one of you tell me one thing you can take from this workshop, apart from the pens and the papers. Would you like? Yeah, will you participate?
Actually, there are a lot of things that I will take from this masterclass. Yes, one is that about changes. Our mind is about these days. From 7 to 21 days, we need to for mind to completely realize what change it was, and then 7 times it should be repeated, and at least minimum 7 times, and the price in the end, what we get from this.
Thank you. Maybe I would say I got everything structured. So for example, what I knew about changes in business, now I see the structure and the steps, how to pass it and how to see the result. Thank you.
Well, I would like to say that I'm just practicing these 21 days, repeat 7 times. And I will give a technique if anybody is acquainted with this. 7 times repeating, just every day do the same thing and write down more low debts. Yes? Yes. The first day you do it, just write down M. The second day O. And the case is that if the third day you haven't done this, just remove and begin from the beginning. Yes, this is a good technique. Just I pay attention to this part of your training. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thanks for such a great training. And I was the very first exercise, though it seemed to be very simple, but quite has done some revolution inside of me. At the moment, I'm trying to gain quite a lot of skills, new ones for me, and I'm sometimes being discouraged that it takes time to get the quality which I want. And now I kind of feel like, hey, it's normal. It takes time. It just takes time, and that's it. So after this training, I will be approaching a bit easier on that it takes time. Thanks a lot.
Okay, first of all, thank you for interesting material. Important for me is like I got something structured in my head, and I believe that the change is vital. So for myself and for my environment, I think it is important thing, and now I have some basis to analyze like what can be the sources of the resistance for change and trying to cope with them. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Since I was a bit acquainted with the theory, I concentrated more on the discussions. It was more interesting to me this time, and I realized I found the definition for myself on how coaching can really help working with these values and beliefs from the discussion that Nana had with my other colleagues. So for myself, I understand that indeed values are not something to be changed. So coaching maybe helps to bring the person to the decision whether he's ready or not to try going through a value change and understand for himself whether it is acceptable or not.
Thank you very much. One thing that I would like to mention, that it gave me some stimulus to go deeper, to learn more about two upper levels, to learn more about beliefs, values, and identity. Thank you.
First of all, thanks a lot for all the information, and certainly it's a benefit to see the steps and the structure you gave on how to overcome it. Very practical things. And for me personally, I was just considering these values and beliefs thing. And I came to myself, that's just sharing what I came to, and that's important, that you don't need to change your values, which is right, but for me it's you learn how to keep your value in the new environment and in the new change. That's what you can come to. And if your family is your value, which is right, then there is no need to change that, but you can learn to keep your value, your family, along with something else. If you change something, maybe you will become even a better mother and wife for your family because you get enriched and empowered with something new. So maybe that's it.
Thank you for the masterclass. Well, for me, the most important part of this whole masterclass was the right steps towards reducing the resistance while bringing changes. So these steps, like in structuring training, yeah. Yeah, thank you.
For me, it was just what to do.
The names of authors for further investigation.
I agree with my colleagues. Just re-stressed once again all those things because changes happen, and it's just a matter of doing things during the changes.
Thank you for helping me to refresh some information.
Predicting sources of resistance.
For me, do not forget your core values and beliefs, although sometimes you have to change your behavior.
Thank you. For me, it was the perspective to hear others' opinions.
The theory, I mean, those steps we should take.
Thank you for positive emotions and being so positive. Thank you.
The name of the author, I will make my research.
The same, thank you for the whole course.
New ideas and principles which can I use in my job.
I want to say thank you for interesting, maybe information.
I didn't know about neuroplasticity. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, the refresher.
It will be more easy to overcome the change when I remember the neuroplasticity, that it will be done.
An interesting and essential information about neuroplasticity. I didn't listen about it later.
A new way of seeing on something that you thought about, and it is always good to have this side from third party on what you've done so far.
I liked this, and you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. The discussion was so involving and I just couldn't resist it. Goodbye. Thank you.